As Ryan lay in bed, wrapped in layers of blankets, a constant shiver running through her weakened body. She couldn't deny the reality of her illness. Her stepbrother, Jungkook, known for his aloof demeanor, surprised her by stepping into the bedroom. Jungkook, usually immersed in his own world, came inside Ryan's room to get some work related information from her. As soon as he entered, he noticed the subtle signs of Ryan's sickness. She was coughing badly, and upon that, a persistent shiver. His eyes widened a little as he approached her immediately. Jungkook, kneeling down on the floor beside her. Ryan, what's wrong? Before she could answer, he touched her forehead to find out she is having a fever. Ryan blushed upon his touch while he remained worried. Jungkook, you should have told me you weren't feeling well. I'll take care of you. His words were unexpected, a sudden change from the usual dialogues they exchanged. Ryan mustered a weak smile, touched by his sudden display of consideration. Jungkook adjusted the room temperature, making sure it was just right, fetched her medicine, and ensured that she took it all without complaining like a child anymore. Then he helped her lie down. He made sure she was completely nestled under the covers. He looked at her for a minute, then said, wait here, I will be back. Where are you going? Before she could ask, he was long gone. A warm bowl of chicken soup in hand, he entered her room with a furrowed brow. Sitting beside Ryan on the bed, the silence in the room was punctuated only by the occasional clink of the soup spoon against the bowl, as he wanted to feed her himself. Ryan, looking at it, what? You didn't have to do this. Jungkook, just eat it quietly. He offered her one spoon, and she gladly opened her mouth to have it. Ryan, give it to me. I will eat myself, she said, putting her hands out of the blanket. Jungkook, what are you doing? Holding her hands, he put them back under the blanket. Keep your hands warm. I got this one. She smiled, looking at him, and gave it up. Ryan, thanks, Jungkook. I didn't expect you to be so caring. Jungkook, family takes care of each other. You'll feel better soon, he said, smiling, revealing a side of him Ryan rarely witnessed. There was no trace of the stern stepbrother that he always is. Instead, he became a caretaker, providing solace in the midst of her discomfort. It was never like that. Their talks, meetings, everything was about work. Ryan didn't know if he would even meet her if they were to stop working together. But this unexpected behavior caught her off guard. She looked at him as he patiently feeded her until the whole bowl was empty. As the day unfolded, Jungkook continued his attentive gestures. He fetched a soft blanket, tucking her in with a gentleness that belied his usual tough exterior. The air in the room shifted, no longer carrying the tension that often lingered between them. Fine, I appreciate this. It's nice to know you care. Jungkook, not one for lengthy conversations, simply nodded, his actions speaking louder than words. He stayed by her side, offering a reassuring presence during her sick days. Fine. I thought you'd be too busy with your own stuff to bother about me. You're family, Vine, and family comes first before any other work. Always. It's my responsibility to look out for you. She smiled after hearing his answer. Fine. This soup is actually good. Did you make it yourself? Well, I might have had some help from a cooking app, but if you're asking about cooking it, I did that all by myself, he said proudly. Fine. It was really good. I didn't see you even stepping into the kitchen before this. He nodded. Anyway, don't get used to it. I'm not turning into your personal chef. He laughed. Looking at him, she laughed too. Fine. Guess you have a soft spot for your sick stepsister too, she said, looking downwards, as if she wanted to say that she never expected it. Not from him. But he shrugged it off. Don't go spreading rumors. I just want you to get better. I can't have you catching a cold on top of everything else. As the day progressed, Jungkook's protective instincts kicked in. As she rested on her bed, he got up and went outside. After a few minutes, he brought a pile of her favorite books, adjusting the reading lamp to cast a warm glow across the pages. Jungkook sighed. Let's read one of your favorites, he said while going through all of them to find one that might suit his taste too. Vine, whose eyes widened looking at the books, asked, how did you know my favorite ones? Jungkook, making a stoic face. Every book is your favorite. All I had to do was to get some of them without thinking, and I knew whichever one I got, you would call it your favorite, so I didn't bother asking you about it. She laughed, as if she completely agreed with him. Despite his stoic exterior, he proved to be surprisingly attuned to her needs. Jungkook started reading from one of the random pages in his deep voice. It felt different this time. The whole story felt different to her when she heard it from him, as if he was the main character and she was looking at him with love. Jungkook, don't keep staring at me. It will make me lose focus. Just hear it, he said without moving eyes from the book. Fine. Do you always bring a pile of books when someone's sick? It's surprisingly comforting. Jungkook. Well, reading is better than staring at the ceiling, isn't it? You're not as cold hearted as you want everyone to believe, are you? She said, looking at his eyes intensely, without any expressions. Jungkook. This doesn't change anything, Vine. I'm just making sure you're okay. Still, it's nice to see a different side of you. I was never able to see it because of our parents and the stupid work. She smiled and continued. It feels comforting. Jungkook stared at her for a few seconds before closing the book in his hand. I could do this any day if you asked me to. It's just common sense. You're family. I don't want you to be miserable. She looked at him intensely and asked, so you see me just as a family member? He smiled and nodded. A very special member of the family, he said, looking back in her eyes. They got lost in each other for a minute. As she broke the eye contact, she smiled. I'll admit, I think you'd be the last person to sit by my bedside. Jungkook, while opening the book again. Don't say things like that anymore. Now rest. I will read the remaining part of it. You will thank me when you're better. I might consider keeping you around as my personal nurse, she said, carrying a playful gleam in her eyes. Jungkook, dream on, girl. Once you're back on your feet, it's back to business. She sighed. Did you have to talk about this? He scoffed, and she continued. Even if you're tough on the outside, you've got a soft spot, don't you? Jungkook, family is important. And besides, you're stuck with me, whether you like it or not. I suppose having a tough mafia stepbrother has its perks. I'm starting to think there is more to you than what meets the eye, she said, suspiciously looking at him. Maybe I want to know the real you, she said, leaning in, whispering to him in the ear. Jungkook, with the same tension and tone, you wouldn't be the first one to try and figure me out. He flicked her nose while saying so. Fine. Challenge accepted, Mafia boss. Rest now. We will continue this banter once you're back on your feet. Fine. Deal, she said while lying down on her back, completely straight and calm, ready to listen to him reading the book. As Vine drifts off to sleep while listening, Jungkook watches over her, a hint of soft smile playing on his usually stoic face. He kissed her forehead before switching off the lights. Maybe, just maybe, family was starting to mean more to him than he ever imagined.